Good. It is already 10:10, so I'm going to go ahead and start.
You sit anywhere, ma'am?
Anywhere.
You sit right here, Frank.
Wherever you want.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. I'm going to tell you this is the Career and Tech second period PLT meeting, but it's a structured meeting, but it's not as formal as I have the agenda and everything else, but that is a requirement that I do have to meet for my master's class. On the agenda, I do want to welcome those of you that are coming in. I do really appreciate it that you're in. There is a sign-in sheet, so if you please sign in. Our PLT meeting today, as agreed from the previous PLT meeting, was that it was going to be on classroom management, and I thought, what a great way to share something that I use in my classroom. I'm very comfortable using it, and it's something that you might want or might not want to use, but it's available, and I'm available as a resource to get it started. I do teach a routine and procedures to my students, and it is a work in process. I teach the level 1 also to my students, and I'm going to encourage you to be kind of thinking of maybe a scenario that we can discuss amongst ourselves as professional learners. There will be an opportunity to kind of share some of the things that you've done, some of the things that have been successful for you. There'll be question and answer, and then there is a short evaluation for me. And then I'll kind of carry it over to Ms. Hernandez for the closing and discussion for our next PLT meeting. And so I just want to stop right there. In case you've never been to Franchism, I know some of you were lost. We do have restrooms. They're on the opposite crosswalk. This is a crosswalk, the opposite crosswalk. First, there's teacher restrooms on your left. And if you need writing material, I do have a community supply, papers, writing utensils if you require any. And I do have a sharpener in the corner. I want to share a little bit of background as far as my classroom management. I have taught for 17 years at all grade levels. I've done elementary, middle school, and now high school. And a couple of times I started in the middle of the school year, and that's tough. I also want you to know that I do consider myself a struggling teacher as far as classroom management, because I have 9 weeks classes. And so every 9 weeks, I get a new batch of kids that have no idea how I run my classroom, that they're coming from other teachers that have set their procedures a certain way. So sometimes it creates conflict. I have been using this structured way to teach routines and procedures to students, and I've taught it for several years. And I want to let you know that I am challenged every day, every period on my procedures. And I just want to reiterate that consistency is going to be very important for procedures. Some of the things that I've learned along the 17 years, and I want to share with you, is that classroom management is critical for effective teaching. I've found that out. I know a lot of administrators, would tell us or keep telling us every time we were at a meeting, and it is true. I've learned not to assume that students know how I run my classroom or expect them to be mind readers, that they're going to know what I want from them. I've also learned that rules are location-specific, behavioral expectations, and can be very limiting. So if you look around my classroom, I don't have rules posted. Procedures tell students what to do and when, promote student independence, and it frees you to really teach, monitor, and interact. And so I've also learned that documentation of classroom misbehavior can be overwhelming when you're trying to teach and you're trying to address a misbehavior. And so I'll kind of share with you what I do with that. And so as I know that I sent out an email, some of you got the email, some of you didn't, but basically there are survey results. I had 7 respondents if you happen to pick up the little survey results. And most of us do consider ourselves really good classroom managers because we have the experience, because we've already, most of us have a lot of experience. And so we kind of see ourselves as we're the adults and we should handle. Most of them, I think, if you look at the survey results, the ones that are kind of highlighted in darker, those are the ones that pertain to the techniques or the procedure that I use. The system that I use is better than average. I can tell you that in 7 years that I've been here at CCWIN, I've had only one major issue with a couple of students that wanted to get into an altercation. And I do the level 1s referrals, but they are very, like this 9 weeks, I did one, and that was for a student that had a bad day. And so I don't have a lot of issues with that. One of the forms that the rules and procedures forms that I'm going to use is one that I actually got from a colleague several years ago. And I know that it was for at-risk students. I know that for sure. I don't remember where and who I stole it from exactly. And you know, that's Harry Wong. He tells you whatever you know or whatever you hear that's working, take it from them, steal it. You're allowed to steal it. You're a teacher. It's also a work in progress. I keep changing it every time that I see a need. I can tell you this, and this is what I do tell the students. It empowers you to make good choices. Because it's really easy to make bad choices, but I always tell them, it's going to empower you to make good choices wherever you're at. And the last one, I just thought I'd throw that in. That's a quote from Sergeant Knott, who is a mentor for my oldest son. And this is something he told me, and I'll never forget it. He said, you take care of the little things, and the big things will take care of themselves. And I think, you know, that makes really, really good sense. And so, I know it's a lot of background. What I really want to do is I want to teach you as my system as if you were my students, all right? And so if you look, the checklist and routines is this one. You have it in your packet. You have a clean one, and you have one that I write on as far as what I tell my students. I tell you I teach the level 1. I'm going to teach you how I teach my students. So I'm going to give you an accelerated course though, because you're GT students. I know that. So I'm going to try to be very fast with that. Yeah, it's after the survey. I have a clean copy. And so I'm going to start with my demonstration. When I start the first week of school, and for me, it's the first week of every 9 weeks, because every 9 weeks I have new students. I don't teach. I don't teach concepts. I don't teach vocabulary. On the first day, what I do is I do my syllabus with an anticipation guide, and then I may have a little team building activity. The second day, I do the first part of the checklist and maybe another team building activity or vocabulary. On Wednesday, I'll do the second one, the second part with another little sponge activity. On Thursday, I teach the level 1, which is about 30 to 35 minutes with a little sponge activity because we have 80 minutes. And then on Friday, their first test is over my procedures and routines. And so I've got daily grades and I've got a test grade for the first week. And I haven't taught anything. Well, I have, but not as far as concepts and vocabulary. So, I'll put it on the document camera, and I specifically tell my students, if I'm writing, you have to write. And I'm checking, I'm monitoring, walking around. I tell them, because it's going to be important, because you're going to have a test over this material. And so I start, and it's one per each class. So I have one for each classroom, and I do it 4 times. One of the reasons I don't cover all of it is because it's like candy. When you eat too much of it, it makes you sick. Same thing with our students. So that's why I cut it down into little parts. So I'm gonna kind of give you a crash course. And this will apply to however you want to do it. I think it's easier if you look at the ones where I have the responses, and I will actually just read the ones that I think need a little more explanation, like for you. The seating arrangement is, not a no-brainer. Number 2, behavior for entering the class. I always give them the option. If you're here fast, early, whatever, then you can visit with friends until the tardy bell rings. I do have to tell them about personal belongings, to hang them on the chair or put them in front of them. And I tell them, if I have issues with hands in backpacks or binders or whatever, then I say, scratch that, and we all put our bags on the counter, and you don't need paper, you don't need anything to write with, because I have my community supply. Believe me, they make good choices. They don't want to lose their privilege of having their backpack or with them. Number 3, the behavior when leaving class. That one I tell them, all teachers tell you that. We all tell you that, you know that. But here's the thing, a lot of times, whenever we have that little downtime, especially here, they'll start to gravitate toward the door. And I tell them, not here. If you start to gravitate toward the door, I'm going to keep you. I will keep you. 30 seconds for them is a lot of time. You don't have to keep them 5 minutes. You don't have to keep them 3 or 2. 30 seconds. If they're waiting to get out of your classroom, before, imagine when the bell rings and they have to wait. They're looking at the clock, And so I'm very specific. Number 4, I actually tell them how I want the paper label. And I tell them I'm not a investigator. So you have your name, you get your credit. You don't have your name, you don't. Turn in incompleted work, that's fine. How to request a drink of water, I actually tell them, no, you take care of it before class or during a restroom break. So if you're going to ask me, ma'am, may I go to drink water? I'm going to say no. And I'm not being rude, that's just my procedure. And so, procedure for going to the restroom, I'm very specific. I tell them, you do this, and I've had students tell me, but ma'am, that's so kindergarten. And I'll say, yes, and it works. I don't need to know, nobody else needs to know that you need to go to the restroom. Just give me a sign. And I'll say yes, I'll say in a little bit. And the procedure is, you fill out my form, you completely, and you take it with you. You have to take it with you. Have I been challenged? Some students don't like to take a clipboard. And I tell them, you don't follow my procedures, you lose your privilege of going to the restroom. For going to the nurse, I tell them, I'm not being personal, because you avoid that, well, why do I have to tell you why I want to go to the nurse kind of stuff. I tell them, you have to give me your need, because I have to fill out a little form, and I'm not a doctor that says, why I'm sending you. Number 9, I really wanted to cover with you. Procedure for going to the office, I tell them, no, you're not going, unless it's a safety issue. Somebody that's is being bullied, is going to get jumped, has weapons, drugs, anything like that, absolutely, I will let you go to the office. If you're going to tell me, I need to go to the office to get permission to go on this trip or whatever, I tell them, you need to do that on your own time. Same for the counselor, I'll listen to individual need, and I give them very specific examples. If you slammed the door on your mom's face getting out of the car, or you broke up with your significant other, whatever it is, if you have a need, that I'm gonna say no if it's to get a transcript, but if you're telling me, I can't cope, I need to talk to somebody, I'll let you go. I'll listen to you individually. Same thing, tardy to class is a big one, and I can tell you, and that I pride myself in that one because I already know. I said, if you don't want Mrs. Solis in your face about why are you late, then give me a little note. Your teachers, the administrators, the security officers, the police officers know that if they're holding you for any reason, you need a note. And so as soon as they walk in, they just give it to me, and we're cool. But if not, then my tardy log is there. You go straight to my tardy log and sign it, and it's documented. And so the others are, I don't have issues with, you don't have your materials, whatever, because on number 14, there's community supply. I ask at the beginning of the year if anybody wants to contribute, and they're there. And they'll borrow, and I'll tell them, hey, you forgot, you take it with you. It's your stuff, it's not mine. You can go ahead and use it. So I'm very specific as far as the procedures. You can't cope, let me know as soon as possible. Makeup work, it's in the syllabus, but remember this, you're going to be late with your homework, you're going to lose 20 points because it's not fair for the others. Chewing gum, I know I shouldn't, but they're going to do it anyway, you know, chew the gum. So I tell them, as long as you're responsible, you chew responsibly. No bubbles, no cow chew, none of that stuff. Again, how do you ask for assistance? And I tell them, since kinder, how do you ask for assistance? And they'll say, exactly. That doesn't change in 12 or 13 years. And so we go through, I also give them a procedure if they have a question and don't want to ask in front of the class, just write it on a paper, hand it to me. Procedure, if you're applying makeup, well, I may ask you nicely once to put it away, but if not, I'll just confiscate it. Procedure, phones, I may remind you, but for sure it'll be confiscated. And then the rules for hats, clothes which advertise, caps, rosary, shorts, and piercings, I tell them, according to the student code of conduct, it's, no, you can't have them. Now the rosaries, I do go into, well, if it's jewelry, it's okay if you wear it outside, and if it's a colored rosaries, will not. And then, of course, the last one, rules on cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, weapons, and bullying, zero tolerance, student code of conduct. And I think I gave you the one where I had to modify this. The first 9 weeks I started having, as you can tell, I have a lab, and I started having problems with students watching videos that they were not supposed to watch. And so now I had to integrate number 27 in there. I'm going to write you up. I'll warn you once, I'll warn you twice. I'm going to start documenting your behavior. And so what that is telling me now is that now I'm going to have to be choosy. Remember work in progress? Now I'm going to have to take out some of the things that I think I can cover without a lot of issue and integrate that one because that's a big one. Is that too much information? No?
Okay.
All right. And I know you all do this. The only thing is I have them write it, they have it with them, and I post it. And so when I have somebody in the back ask me, can I go to the restroom? I'll say no. And I'll turn around, and then if they still don't get it, I'll say somebody help them with the procedure, or I'll say you forgot procedure number, and it's constant. Right now, at the end of the 9 weeks, it's not, they get it. They've got it down pat. And so I truly believe that my using this procedure is what has helped me a lot with the classroom management. And so am I going to have students that are still not going to comply? Absolutely, I am. And so here's what I do with those students. As far as the discipline part of it. The teaching the level 1. So I do that in 2 days. My level 1s are here. I always have a stack. And I'm going to pass some of them out so that you can kind of share and look at them. Mine are highlighted. And I'm doing what I shouldn't be doing, lecturing a lot, but sorry. And so this is day 3. This is day 3, and so now I tell them, and I'm going to actually X out of this because I want my camera. And so one of the reasons that I decided to teach the level 1 was because it never failed. I always had like those good kids or those kids that didn't have any idea what this was. And I would say, okay, let me go ahead. And I would start writing, and they would start with, oh, no, Mrs. Solis, don't give me a pink slip. Don't give me a pink slip. And I would say, it's not a pink slip. It's a documentation of what you're doing. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so to avoid that, I thought, well, why don't I just tell them what I can write them out for and what I can't? So that's my day 4. And so I put this up on the screen. And everything's highlighted. All I'm doing is checking off the misbehavior, and I put it on their desk. And I say, I have the information, and sign it. And I tell them, I can write, this is what I can write you up for. If you do several of these, then it becomes a pink slip. But if you're in dress code violation, if you're throwing an object in class, excessive noise, eating class, being defiant, and I show what being defiant means. I say, I can ask student X over there to move, and student X doesn't move. And so I ask again, and student X does not roll their eyes, does not back talk, does not throw a chair or a desk, but doesn't move. That's being defiant. Whenever a teacher asks you to do something and you don't do it, that is defiance. And you have to tell them that, because a lot of students don't know. They assume that if they don't do anything, they're going to get their way, and you're not going to do anything about it. Annoying classmates, excessive talking, materials. I highlight the one about provoking a confrontation, delivering written communications between home and school. Sleeping in class is one that I highlight a lot, because a lot of students feel like they can put their head down and sleep, and they're upset if you go and bother them. I tell them, this is something that I should be writing you for. Eagle Pass ISD School District is telling me my job is, I'm getting paid to do this. And so I focus on that one. Unexcused tardies, absences, lack of cooperation, rude, restless, and I go through all of them. I include the phones here because it doesn't specifically say phone, but I kind of mention it in there. The other thing is, and I'll tell them, I'll mark off here what I did with you. And I'm going to put it on your desk. And you fill out the highlighted information and sign it, and I'll pick it up at the end of the period. And I will also tell them, I'll give them a little story. I tell them a lot of little stories, and I'll tell them, I've had teachers come to me and ask me, but Mrs. Solis, aren't you afraid they're going to put the wrong address or the wrong phone number? And I said, no, because if I don't check and I send it off to administration, after a while, if I have like 2 or 3 of these, the parents are, because it has happened to me, parents will come and say, but Mrs. Solis, you never told me that you were having issues with my child. And I'll say, oh yes, we did. Here's the level 1s. And then they'll say, but that's not my address or my phone number. And I'll say, okay, well that's the address and phone number your child gave us. So now they've made another poor choice. And so when I tell them that, and I kind of put things into perspective according to how it affects them, they kind of really get it. And so that's my teaching of the level 1. and it works. It really does work. What I also want to share with you, because then I want you to share with me some issues that you've had and how you've resolved them, is that whenever I have a student, and it works because I've had an administrator take it, whenever I have a student that says, but ma'am, you know, sometimes you're giving a lesson and they're like, every 2 or 3 minutes, but ma'am, but okay, ma'am, you know, whenever they go into that mode, what I do is I take the level 1, I turn it over, and I'll put it somewhere where it's easy for me to get to, nobody else. And so I'll put it there, and I'll check the time, and I'll put 10:23, what the student said, what I did, verbal correction. 10:27, stood up, talked out loud, verbal correction. And so what I do is on that same level 1, on the back, I start documenting all of their behaviors, and then I submit it to administration. And that, you know how sometimes we worry about, but they're doing so many things, which ones do I address? Well, if you just take, or on a clean sheet of paper, if you just take one clean sheet of paper and then attach it to your level 1, that also works. I don't know if you have any questions for me as far as challenges that I've come across. Or
how do you, it says right here that you use the student code of conduct a lot, but then you mentioned about the rosaries, that some of them are jewelry, some of them are showy.
That
Isn't a rosary a rosary? Like?
Yeah, and according to the student code of conduct, the last time I covered it, because I haven't had a second period for a while, or I don't know if it's 4th period now that they cover it. Second, right? One of the explanations that administrators would give us was, if it's jewelry, gold, silver, platinum, something that looks like jewelry, they would consider it okay. But if it's a colored rosary or beaded rosary that shows colors, then it's not okay because you're showing affiliation. That's how I understood that. And I do tell the students, if that's your case, that you're wearing it truly for religious reasons, then why not wear it inside where it's not visible? Because I've had students ask me the same question. I said, but why this and why not that? And that's the explanation I give them as I remember from when I would cover the student code of conduct. I'm hoping that I'm still on track with that. I know that the shorts, like the basketball shorts, because if you see on one of them, it does. For a time they weren't allowed, the sports shorts, and now they changed it to, yeah, you can use them now. And I would tell them the reason you couldn't use them before was because they pulled them down, and they've had several incidences of that. Any other?
Ms. Solis, just to share with you on your checklist for rules and routines, number 16 on your grading policy.
16.
Number 16.
Mm-hmm.
Just to cover all your grounds and avoid being challenged by a parent, I would include the district grading policy. As minimal as you can state it, but the district does have a policy that states that students are allowed to make up a failing grade. And I know that there's been times, because I've witnessed it, when, you know, teachers, I guess, refuse to allow, but it is part of our grading policy, so you may want to also include it just to make sure that you are providing the opportunity.
I do provide the opportunity. This is how I handle it, and I don't know if it's, I'm calling it professional discretion. I don't know. But I tell my students, if you're making up an assignment because you were absent and it's excused, you can get all your points.
Yeah, great.
But you've got about 5 days to make it up. And I tell them, if you have, if you were absent and you don't turn in an excuse, then you can't make it up. But I do give them an opportunity to make up for 70.
Exactly.
I do. Because if not, then, you know.
And everybody's going to want to retake.
Retake,
exactly.
Absolutely. And for the late, you know, for the late assignments, this is what I tell them. I said, if I tell you my assignment is due today, and with me it's kind of, because my test grades are presentations. And so I tell them, your presentation is a test grade, like I said, you were taking a paper test in math. And so if you're not ready to present on the day that it's due, then you're going to be late. And late for me is you lose 20 points. You start with an 80. You start with an 80. And then I evaluate you. And accordingly, whatever points you lost from 100 to an 80, I take off from 82. But I also show them the difference. I said, look, you had a missing grade and your average was a 63. Now you present it, you had a makeup grade, okay, you got a 65 for a test grade, but look at your average now, it's a 77. And so when you put things into perspective like that, then they get it, that it's better to get some points in a test grade than no points. And I actually have it in my syllabus. I tell them, I can't give you all the grade, the full grade for late work, because it's not fair to the ones that did have it on time. And so that I cover, that's why I put on there in syllabus. But what I do want to remind you is if you don't have it on time, you're going to lose 20 points. Thank you for that. Any others?
So when you said that you don't post the discipline rules?
I don't, if you look.
Before I didn't, but then I think it was an administrator who mentioned that that's part of the rating or something, so.
So you put rules.
Yes.
And I know, but when that comes up, I always tell them I have procedures. And in my syllabus, I have classroom expectations, because by the time you call them rules, you have that negative connotation there with the kids. I mean, I have 3 kids. My oldest one was my challenge. And so I can tell you that anytime they get a negative connotation, they're going to tune you out. And so that's why in kind of closing, and I know that, I'm just going to mention it, but I'm not closing yet, is that this is one of the reasons I don't use, why are you doing that? And you did this, or no and don't, and I don't nag at them because they get it at home. I don't put them down because they probably get it at home. And I really don't lecture a lot as far as behavior because they get that at home. And so you did this, this is the consequence. This is the procedure for this, you didn't follow it. And it's cut and dry. Because the moment that you go into this, why, this, or you lecture, you have now given them your power. They take, because now you're wasting instructional time and addressing that student, what you didn't want to do at the beginning. And so whenever I see them misbehavior, I just document it, give it to them, and say, okay, this is what you're doing. And then yes, you follow up with the parents and all that good stuff, send them to the administration, but usually they get it. And when they don't, usually I have students that will ask, and I'll say, no, go to the restroom. Ms. Solis, may I go to the restroom? And I'll turn around, and they'll say, you're supposed to do this. Yeah, because, and they kind of help each other with that. And now I'm still in control, because they didn't take that from me.
Just curious,
What's
your average students in your class?
25.
Or you do have 25?
I have two classes with 25, one with 20, and I think one with 23. And that's because of the stations. I have one computer station down. And it's really a full class when you have computers, because you have to constantly be running the videos, So that's my class. It is a speech class, but it's a speech class using technology, and so they put projects together that then they present in a professional setting.
For the level 1 discipline, we also do that in class. I spend time with them, but I tell them I let them change the negatives to positives.
Oh, that's a good
Yes,
one.
Yeah, positive statements, so we post them on the wall. You don't see the never or the don't or so we just change it to.
That works really well, because a lot of these, students are used to negative. Even on, I tell them, when I walk to the main building and I'm walking next to you, I hear, oh my goodness, I hear all kinds of stuff. And I see all kinds of stuff, with the hugging, like, oh, I love you, but I want to hurt you kind of thing.
Ms. Solis, do you ever offer the opportunity for students to make up a grade for academic dishonesty? Do they approach you?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I had one of my lessons was you're supposed to take notes on the computer. So it's kind of your typing skills. And so I had a student that, was kind of not motivated to do it, was taking his little time, so they were due because it was for a grade. So what he did was he asked his partner to email him the vocabulary that were typed. But see, they're so innocent, he forgot to take the name from the bottom where the other student had typed the notes.
Yeah.
And so I called him up on it, and I did tell him, it's a 0. You do have an opportunity to make it up for a 70. No more, for a 70 if you type your own. And so he was a little embarrassed, but he got it done. And here's the thing, a lot of times we get second chance. That's the way I see it. We get second chances. And sometimes we mess up. Now if it's a consistent thing, I saw you do that. Good job. Good job. And so, I don't know if you have anything else that you'd like to share, anything that maybe we can all discuss and help you with, or
How many level 1s do you write per week?
this 9 weeks I've written 1, and I have to share this story with you, because the student that I wrote the level 1 for was a student that I've had like for 2 or 3 different courses, because I've taught child development and speech and principles of human services, all those courses. So he's been in my courses consistently. Well, he's now a senior, and he came in and it was November, he had the little goatee. All of a sudden, he had it. So I'm walking around and I said, hey, what's up? And he said, oh, it's November, no shave, and I'm doing it for a cause. I said, okay, student, then if it's for a cause, then you need administrative. He said, and I have permission. I said, okay, where's your letter that you have permission for this cause? He said, oh, well, I'll get it done, but I'll get it done at home. And so I asked him, not once, because he was special needs, 2, 3, 4 times, you need to go and shave. You need to go and shave. That kind of stuff. And so he didn't comply. So I had to get the officer to come and pick him up and escort him. And he's walking from that station, and I'm actually here. And he's walking out, and he calls me over. He said, Mrs. Solis. I said, yes? Why are you such an... and ask, and snitch on me. I said, Chris, it's something that you're supposed to do. And so you go, you take care of whatever's bothering you today, and tomorrow we start as if nothing happened. I had to write a level 1 for that. And I actually have to put the word to. So that's the type of stuff. And he knows it. I mean, he didn't call it out. He didn't call me out. He actually told me in a very low tone and nicely. And so, yeah, that's why I tell you, I'm challenged every day with students that I've known and I thought I had a good relationship with. And so, but I can tell you that all those little minor ones that happen, it's taken care of with this.
class, I don't have makeup, makeup day, because every day's makeup day in my classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I have my lessons from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. What did we do yesterday? All I do is point. And then with the math and the calculator, I know they don't do it at home for homework because of the graphic calculator. So I pick up their work every day, and then I give them the lesson, and then I give them back to work, finish it, and then start on the other one that you have. And then when they come in the 9 weeks, what do I need to make up? There's no makeup work. Every day's makeup day in my work. By Friday, you're missing this, this, and this. I was absent. You didn't pick it up. You know, so, and don't come in at the end of the 9 weeks. What do I need to make up? Every day's makeup day. Where you're absent or where you're there, and so on. You know. So that's
Absolutely,
a for me.
that's part of my review too, makeup.
Question is, so what about helping them understand, like supposing they miss the discussion, and how will they understand the concept?
Oh, I go to if they're absent, like for example, Monday and Tuesday, I did a big lesson on square roots or whatever. I give notes. These are the notes that I give out. I'll explain again a couple of times, and then I'll go to your desk if you have more questions. Or even tell them, ask your friend across, you know. And, or I'll go individually, okay? Then if they, you know, need more help in that. I'm kind of fortunate, I'm teaching math models. I'm not as strange like Algebra 1. They have to cover everything, right? You know. So my class kind of gives me a little bit more time for them, you know, to do the work and do it in class. I go, I know you're not going to do it at home. You don't have the graphic calculator, even though you can get it on the internet, you know. So that has worked for me, you know. And I tell them, don't come in the last week of the 9 weeks for makeup work. And they go, what am I missing? You're not missing anything because I gave it to you to finish it. I even given back to them to finish. So you shouldn't have any missing work unless you're in the hospital for 5 days.
And see, here's the thing also with, I also use a lot of the peer, like kind of see how much they can help you with, and whatever they can, I kick in. That's when I kick in, whenever somebody's absent for makeup work. I use the peer help. That helps too.
You know, and if it will work for other classes to pick it up, you know, I don't think it would work like if they were doing another class, you know, to give it back to them. But because of the calculator, I'm giving the opportunity for them to, you know, finish. And
Well,
we
see-
still have some that are not passing.
And that's the issue that I have a lot of times also with they have to do projects on the computer. So that's challenging for some of my students too. And so, yeah, sometimes we have to go a little above and beyond and stay like after school or something to give them that opportunity. And I'm here usually at 7:15 or 7:20 too, and they can come in at that time. So, anyone else?
I have a question about what Mr. Mendoza said. Is Mrs. Fernandez here? Like, he told us to at least call 5 to make the calls during the second period or during our planning period to make 5.
Oh, parent contact?
Yes, but how can we do that if we are meeting? Oh, it's only twice a month,
Right, we
right?
only meet twice a month.
Yeah. I was just like, just take their time.
Okay, well, if you don't have any other questions for me, that's the end of my presentation. I mean, all I can tell you is just to kind of close everything, it just takes as much time to document a behavior on level 1 discipline referral as it does to do this. And I found that out really quickly. And so I'd rather just really quickly, you know, document the behavior, let them know. A lot of times they're not conscious because nobody's told them. And so once that happens, then it's a lot easier. And I still have my classroom as far as the management part of it. So we did do a little bit of the sharing. If there are no other questions, then I will close with my little lesson on classroom management. I hope that those of you that are visiting, I really appreciate you being here. Hopefully you'll go back and maybe do something on classroom management and take some of the things that I presented here and just let them know that I'm available as a resource if they want to know more. All right. Thank you so very much.
Just before you all leave, I just want to mention just the topics of discussion from last week's POT meeting. one of our concerns was, students need to get access to their grades. That was a concern back from November the 18th. It was discussed in one of our PLT meetings. We talked about what steps are we gonna have to take to make sure that they have access to their grades, and as you all know, because we all got an email, now students have access to grades and they're able to create accounts. I do want to share with you that I sent an email to all the department heads offering our labs to the students. Okay, so I don't know if it was shared with you or not, but if you have a student who does not have access to a computer and they would like to set up their account, please contact me. I will accommodate them. I don't think we need to use several labs, but my lab is available at any time for the students. It was a CT initiative, so I want to make sure that we are providing our equipment to make sure that the students can actually sign up. Okay, so I just wanted to share that with you. And very quickly, we did have an agenda, which we will resume for the next meeting. Our programs of study, and in the top of the list are the portfolios for the special population, our at-risk and our migrant students. Okay, that's all that I have to say.
Thank you. And the evaluations, do you have evaluations that you do fill them out really quickly and see them there? Thank you.